Vice President of BrainJuicer's Behavioural Labs. Joining me today from BrainJuicer is Peter Harrison, Creative Director in our Behavioural Labs group. The Behavioural Labs group is a division of BrainJuicer that provides behavioral-based marketing and innovation consulting. Simply put, we improve marketing and communications by helping clients understand how decision environments subconsciously drive the choices that their customers make. And then we use these learnings to actually design specific marketing and innovation tactics that can direct choice in our client's favor. So today I'm going to be taking you through a session on behavior design, or how we apply behavioral economic and decision science principles to shopper marketing. So to set the stage a bit, first I'm going to discuss what I believe is the #1 outage we have in our industry and how behavioral design addresses it. Then I'm going to take you through a few case studies to show you how we've been using behavioral design to drive business results for our clients. Now don't feel like you need to take screenshots of the presentation. We'll be sending you a follow-up email when you're able, or so that you'll be able to receive a copy of today's presentation if you request it. So if you're in marketing or an insights function, odds are your CEO seriously questions the value you bring to their company. And this isn't just my conclusion. This is coming directly from CEOs themselves. Now I'm paraphrasing from a study conducted by the Fornés Marketing Group last summer. The Fornés Group surveyed over 1,200 CEOs and executive officers globally to better understand the state of marketing in today's economic climate. And frankly, it shows a sad state for our industry. If you've seen staff or budget cuts over the past 2 years, it's likely that your executive team falls into this thinking group. Now it's clear that marketing and insights lacks financial credibility in many organizations because executives can't see our impact on the financial bottom line. And I had the same challenge when I ran the Shopper Insights department at Frito-Lay. Eventually I was given the challenge of advancing the Shopper Insights discipline into a more behavioral marketing role, to not only understand the what and the why behind shopping behaviors, but to also expand our responsibilities to owning these rich insights all the way to final application, where insights are directly linked to the solution. In other words, owning the now what. We live in a great time for insights. The advancements in neuro and social sciences are providing unprecedented insights into human behaviors. And while our understanding of how people make decisions is increasing exponentially, our understanding of how to apply these learnings into marketing hasn't. Our marketing generally looks the same as it did a decade ago. It's just spread across more communication platforms, thinking that further reach will increase sales. Directly applying behavioral sciences to marketing innovation is what I believe is the biggest challenge facing our industry. Behavioral insights are interesting to CEOs. Behavioral solutions are important to CEOs. This has been our innovation focus over the past years at BrainJuicer. Our mission is to inspire our clients to do great marketing by translating these breakthroughs in psychology, behavioral economics, and social sciences into real-world behavioral design solutions, turning human understanding into business advantage. Now next month, our CEO, John Kieran, will lead a new webinar to discuss the profound implications that these sciences are having on our research industry, and specifically how BrainJuicer is leading the charge to meet this challenge to becoming the System 1 agency of record. You should try to attend that. So if you know us, you know that we base our methods on behavioral economics. If you are unfamiliar with behavioral economics, Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow will catch you up to about 30 years worth of research very quickly. It's a great read. But for those who haven't read it, I'm going to give you a 5-second synopsis of the book's key principle and the basis for behavior design. So bear with me for a minute. I want to run a virtual behavioral experiment with you right now. So I'm going to ask that everyone on the webinar just find something you can easily pick up and toss into the air right now. Just look around and pick up any small object that's near you, anything at all. It can be a pen, an eraser, anything that's accessible. Now that you have it, I'm going to count to 3, and all I want you to do is toss it into the air, but catch it with your other hand. Easy, right? Hopefully everyone has something by now. So on the count of 3, I want you to toss the object into the air and catch it with your other hand. Ready? 1, 2, 3, catch. Now if you did what I just asked you to do, I believe that this will fundamentally change the way we are doing marketing and marketing research in the future, particularly shopper insights. Let me explain. So Kahneman's work highlights 2 decision-making systems. System 1 is the more emotional decision system. This system makes decisions fast because it uses instincts and intuition to act. This is the system you just used to catch the object you just tossed. You didn't calculate speed, trajectory, or distance before tossing and catching it. You simply used your unconscious instincts to know where to throw and where to catch. Now, System 2 is considered the more analytical decision system. It's slow, calculating, and more conscious in nature. I like to think of these two systems in this way. System 1 is like the Google Rooms with all the servers. It's always on, incredibly fast, and controls the vast majority of decisions. And System 2 is more like the old Commodore 64 computer. It's very slow, kind of clunky, but it does still do the hard calculations and is definitely needed. Now, to many of you, this two-system concept isn't new. But what we're discovering now is that we rely a lot more on System 1, these unconscious decision processes, than we would like to admit. One thing we know from our neuroscience research is that System 2 thinking is hard work. We don't like to do it. We would much rather rely on our System 1, gut feels, intuition, and simple habits to handle the thousands of decisions we make each day. Or to put it most simply, we think much less than we think we think. And when we try to make people think to get them to buy our products or change a behavior, we are severely limiting our marketing impact. So here's a fundamental truth, everyone. Changing people's behaviors is incredibly difficult to do. In a world where people are making over 17,000 decisions a day, the chances of you reaching and convincing someone to buy your product or accept your point of view are very, very small, no matter how beneficial it is for them. In fact, I'd say that even on your best day, odds are 9 to 1 against you. Surprisingly, a recent study from Johns Hopkins University showed that even after open-heart surgery, less than 10% of open-heart surgery patients actually change their lifestyle behaviors. Now imagine this. This is literally a life or death decision. These surgeons have a message that has 100% reach with an incredibly captive target market. All the facts and proof points on why their patients must change their lifestyles, and even the intense emotional connection that links the solution to their core need. Yet behaviors and actions rarely change. So what's missing? Why is it that study after study shows that 90% of those who lose weight on diets end up gaining it back? Why is it that only 1 in 5 continue to take their heart medications even after the first year? Why do we still have only 20,000 drunk driving fatalities globally every year, even though we've campaigned against it for 50 years? And even after all the consumer research and planning for new product launches, introductions fail in some markets above 90%. At least part of the answer lies in a marketing myth. So traditionally, we've been taught that choices are made through simple cognitive processes, and if we just understand consumer values and link our brands to that self-image and those values, then we will build emotional engagement, and ultimately that will draw on purchases. So we spend incredible sums of time and money to understand her needs, to help build our brands and messaging that reflects our values. So we understand that she values purity, and we think through that her attitudes are the simpler and the better, and we go all the way down to she's going to want a natural snack, that way she will now go buy a Kashi bar. However, at the point of decision, our brands never live outside of context. Subconsciously, the environment around our brands, be it messaging, alternative offers, adjacencies, planograms, flow, even messaging on the back side of this aisle, have strong psychological impact on her decision to buy or not buy. In fact, at the moment of decision, the choice environment heavily influences shopping behaviors. The last decade has been revolutionary in the advancement of the behavioral and decision sciences, particularly behavioral economics. From this work, it is often clear now that we behave irrationally. Pre-existing brand preferences aren't always constant nor stable due to the choice environment itself. Therefore, I believe our shopper industries must evolve. In a world where the typical person is exposed to hundreds of marketing messages and makes thousands of decisions daily, the chances of any one brand message being able to tap into and influence someone's decision is becoming increasingly more difficult. The future of shopper insights lies in our ability to understand and then influence how people make decisions. From not only being these architects that create these blueprints to drive consumer preference in store, but also to build and direct shopper choice by consulting on and actually building this choice, architected solutions in store or online. From only focusing on shopper needs to also understanding specifically how the choice environment is directing choices. From only building brands in store to also building and accounting for the context in which our brands live. From brand engagement to really thinking about creating engaging environments. From 360 equity campaigns to drive brand meaning, to thinking of taking choice along decision cycles to drive conversion, where sometimes your equity message is not going to draw any new behaviors or any new sales. And lastly, from building in-store marketing exclusively through a brand design lens to also designing in-store marketing that helps shoppers make fast, intuitive decisions through a behavioral design lens. So we're making these thousands of decisions each day in various contexts using different mental models for each decision. So how do we deal with this complexity to even understand what to design for? Well, to make things a bit simpler, we created the behavioral model to help us identify and understand the psychological influencers that impact this System 1 thinking. It just provides a frame or a lens to view your research and marketing through. Now we see that System 1 influencers can be grouped into one of three buckets: environmental factors, social factors, and personal factors. And this model doesn't just make behavioral factors easier to understand and group. When you look at each lens in totality, it actually provides a high-level roadmap or even a toolkit that can be used to apply to marketing programs and tactics. So under environmental influencers, we look at primes and psychological frames using heuristic theories and triggers to think through what are the factors that the environment is controlling to help influence decisions. In social, you want to be seen, shared, and copied. And in personal, how do we make things fun, fast, and easy so that the final decision is easy to make? So our new behavioral consultancy is helping clients make this transition by focusing on our clients' most critical behavioral challenges. First, we provide contextual behavioral audits that deconstruct the decision environment to uncover the personal, social, and environmental factors that are influencing behaviors throughout the consumer's decision journey. We also provide the latest in context decision science-based qualitative and quantitative research methods to uncover the psychological choice drivers that your shoppers are using to navigate. Now, once this insights work is completed, we typically move into the behavioral design phase, where we make these findings actionable. We mine data to code actions, what we call behavioral interventions, with our clients. These can be as simple as modifying language on a piece of creative, all the way to in-store and website redesigns. Now for us, this is the most exciting part of our projects because we get to work directly with you to bring these solutions to life within your company. We do these in interactive workshops where we present out our initial concepts and then use the total team's expertise to build on these concepts and turn them into tangible, workable tactics. Lastly, for those who need it, we will conduct behavioral experiments. In this stage, we will work directly with you and your marketing agencies to test and validate these specific tactics by deploying these into the real world. So now let's walk through a few case studies and how behavior design is being used to drive greater business results. So I picked these specific case studies based upon today's audience, as well as I wanted one from each of our three service offerings. Now the thing to remember is that behavior design has great breadth. We've worked in areas like behavioral-based packaging optimization, in-store displays, programs and shopper experiences. We've consulted on architecture and social media platforms. We've helped brands increase top-of-mind consideration and usage with priming. And we've even started to get involved on more experimental projects like helping companies create more motivating work environments. So this first case study is about how behavioral auditing and research was used to help PepsiCo optimize new activation. So PepsiCo is in a unique opportunity that their product portfolio consists of food and beverages, so they can provide whole meal solutions when they can get shoppers to cross-purchase them. So they invest heavily in merchandising and trade to make this possible. One tactic that they developed was investing in these barrel coolers on the left-hand side of your screen to increase cross-purchases in convenience stores and gas stations. These coolers kept sodas ice cold, and since it was battery operated, store managers could roll these into high traffic areas around their customers without their customers tripping all over them. Hanging chip racks also make the cross purchase really easy to do. All in all, a pretty solid in-store merchandising unit, strong Pepsi branding, and a solid catchy promotional offer that delivers real value. Better together, two for $2. These were expensive, and they weren't being seen very effective, I guess, at increasing these PepsiCo cross purchases. So environment as well as the barrel looking through a behavioral lens allowed us to really uncover some ideal opportunities to design messaging and offers against. So under environmental factors, convenience stores are covered with motivational primes. In many ways, a convenience store is similar to Las Vegas to these guys. It offers a large variety of vices like snacks, candy, alcohol, cigarettes, lottery tickets, and like Las Vegas, this in-store environment creates really strong levels of impulsivity and permissibility, making price a tertiary consideration in their subconscious decision processes. Now, under social factors, frankly, there weren't many, which is actually a key finding. When you observe these guys shopping, they're generally relaxed because they aren't being judged on what they buy from the cashier or others in the store. So they don't need to follow many social guidelines, like buying healthy snacks, for instance. It's just a place where he can go and pretty much buy whatever he wants to buy, food, any drink, without his wife or kids knowing about it. And looking through a personal factor lens, there's some deep emotional work that was done that uncovered that this guy sees himself, subconsciously anyways, as a warrior. And he feels pressured every day to provide for himself and his family. And while he's shopping in this particular environment, he sees himself as this kind of hero or this warrior, and he sees that the C-store or the convenience store is actually a resource to get him through today's battles. So when we did this, some metaphor work, and we saw that this guy constantly used metaphors like winning. I have to win the day. It's a competition. I've got to get through the day. My day is a battle. It's a struggle. Things like that. And through these battles, it's to where he can actually get through the day, take a relaxing break because he knows tomorrow he has to start that battle all over again. And he uses the convenience store as a way of doing that. So this may happen in the early morning when he has to go in and jumpstart his day with a cup of coffee, or even throughout the day he may come back to the C-store to recharge with energy drinks and lunch. So taking these key factors into account, we determined that the barrel cooler looked and functioned great, but it wasn't behaviorally optimized. Now some of the higher level things that we observed and uncovered were, say for instance on the left-hand side, there was a limited variety of snacks on the left-hand side, and in a place that's so impulsive, he's actually looking for a variety because he wants to kind of keep working through this impulsivity. The design of the cooler itself showcased Pepsi and did great branding, but it wasn't really great at really shopper motivations and had a price-centered promotion. So redesigning the messaging and structure of the promotional offer significantly increased cross-purchases at no additional discounting for Pepsi. For priming of the needs, we use the words and visuals to consistently prime promotion regulatory focus by incorporating images, showcasing competition, and showing this winning moment at the bottom of the cooler. To further increase hot states, showing this overly animated gesture like the victory pose and priming fast action through the words and visuals was really instrumental in trying to draw in that shopper. Also, we used the color green to help prime for. Under framing of the choice, we reframe the promotion offer using bundling. Now this reframe combines mental accounting and hot state decision making to provide greater psychological value to these guys without further discounting. So basically, there was an implicit association technique that was used to uncover the level of emotional charge associated with each product in the portfolio. Then they brought these bundles together and discounted only the more emotionally charged item in the bundle. In this case, discounting the soda at 55 cents rather than both items being discounted together at one low price of $2.22. This reframe gave the shopper greater value because the discount was only placed on the most hedonically charged item within a bundle, thereby making him feel better about the purchase. Lastly, we triggered the behavior. In any marketing, it's still important to tell the mind what to do and when to do it. The mind craves order and it craves direction. Now this was accomplished by celebrating these epic moments of winning with a clear System 1 design header card which says fuel up, thirst down, and drive away a winner. By using behavior design, we were able to design specifically to System 1 thinking and thereby created a more compelling program without further discounting. Now, second case study I'd like to talk about is going to highlight a project to showcase how our behavior design services. Now, this project was for a home improvement client who asked for our help in driving greater conversion in their lighting department. This project was a bit different because it didn't really start with a problem per se. Instead, they asked us to examine their entire store layout and asked for us to really focus in on a few key departments to look for any large behavioral opportunities. And it was through an initial behavioral audit that we felt that their lighting department had some broad behavioral issues that could easily be addressed. So for some of the easier solutions that we designed for, number one, to increase shoppability and to activate mirror neurons, we created a canvas backdrop that shows a dining room in the background. This way, as she's looking at these lighting sets, she can actually see herself in context of the lighting and a real dining room behind her. To help lessen some avoidance priming that was happening, we took some neurological best practices and rounded off the edges of the end cap, as well as created to make it easier for the mind to organize and make a decision. And to make the set easier to shop, we create a logical order and a flow in the section by architecting it via the shopper's natural decision path. Style first, because she's coming in there to really think about the style of lighting she's looking for and how it fits into her decor. Then went into options, and then to price. And lastly, we really wanted to create a sense of ownership while she's making a decision, because this is generally a higher priced item, and it's really easy for somebody to really think about making a decision, but at the end of the day, if you don't have strong triggers, she may actually back away from the purchase to do it at another time. So you want to take a little bit of control and create some more immediacy around this. And we did this by designing a fixture solution where she could interact with the lighting by simply turning light on by style. So just that interaction creates a sense of ownership on that decision and on that product. As well as we introduced a social factor program that highlighted the store's most popular pick, thereby making a little bit safer choice, because these are higher priced lights. By making it look as if lots of people are popular item being bought, it gives a kind of a sense of ownership, and it also gives a sense of the conformity that, yes, many other people are buying this, therefore it's a safe choice. Now, this third case study is really going to showcase testing. Now, this is for all the retailers on the call who want to do a little bit more behavioral testing. I'll now take you through a project we did with Hunkemoller, a large lingerie retailer in the Netherlands, to measure the effectiveness of engaging the shopper's senses while browsing. Now, hot states are very influential on our behaviors, and given the high degree of hot states people are in when they shop here, an insights manager at Hunkemoller wanted to test the impact that sensory stimuli had on shopping behavior. So we worked with him to conduct 2 behavioral experiments. In test 1, we wanted to see if we could increase happiness and prime possibly for reciprocity by passing out free chocolates to shoppers. And in the second test, we wanted to see if incorporating proprietary scent into the store would significantly impact shopping perceptions and behaviors. So we worked with the team of test and control research procedures as well as pre-post sales analysis to determine the effectiveness of these interventions. So let's first talk about the chocolate experiment. In this first test, we had Hunkemoller employees at various times during the day walk around and offer free chocolates to their shoppers as they were browsing their store. And by doing this, we're hoping, again, to create this higher level of happiness and a sense of reciprocity, which can significantly increase spending in retail. We find in our research that when people are shopping and they're in a happy mood, they buy less on deal or less off deal, they buy more products, and generally they'll even talk more about their shopping experience. And our results showed that yes, we were indeed able to increase overall happiness by giving out free chocolates. This is a very easy, cost-effective way to make shopping more enjoyable. Now, in our second test, we wanted to understand the impact of pumping a specific fragrance into stores and what that would have on shopping. So Hunkemoller installed fragrance machines in their test stores, and we looked at about 6 weeks worth to measure their impact on behaviors. Again, we used standard control and testing procedures and analyzed question and we found that by adding this scent, Hunkemoller received significantly higher ratings on the level of customer service as well as the quality of the actual clothes in the stores. Now, I love this finding due to its irrational nature. Fragrance shouldn't have any impact on the perception of the quality of the clothes being sold, but in our testing it did. Same thing with customer service, yet ratings on both still went up. But what we're hoping to see is a financial benefit to this. And we did. For those days where the fragrance was pumped into the store, basket ring increased on an average of 20%. So it shows the power of behavioral design solutions, and when you're being very deliberate in your solutions and your interventions, you can actually drive some pretty good behavioral changes. So in conclusion, there is so much promise in the behavioral sciences and the great work that is being done by so many people today, but it's just not being leveraged. I believe that our industry's future lies in our ability not just to understand choice, but to derive choice. And this can be accomplished through behavioral design. And when your marketing strategy incorporates behavioral design, there are many benefits to the manufacturer, the retailer, and the shopper. For retailers, your shoppers will make happier, more confident decisions because the purchase just feels natural and intuitive. It also creates a more enjoyable shopping experience that they may actually go and tell others about. And for manufacturers, behavior design can help you increase conversion and buying momentum, and in some cases even allow you to charge a higher price for your products. So that's what we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed the presentation, and we'll now take a few questions from participants. Peter Harrison, who's also joining me, will start looking at some of those questions now. If you do have a question, just type it into the box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll try to answer them as best we can. Also, be on the lookout for information on our next webinar hosted by John Kieran titled Turning Human Understanding into Business Advantage in Creating Behavioral Change in the Research Industry. So Pete, do you have a question that the audience has submitted?
Great, well, thank you very much. Questions have started to come into the box already. So I'll start off with a pretty broad question. How does a standard project work for this new consultancy?
So we tend to have about three phases in our projects. In phase one, we have this explore and understand phase. And here's what we're really trying to do is really understand your behavioral challenges. So we'll usually explore a half-day kickoff session with you to finalize project specs, really understand some of the marketing and the things that you've been doing to help change behaviors. And then also what we'll do is ask you about your existing ideas. We find that some of your ideas are generally really good changes and really good interventions because you intuitively know your shoppers. Also what we'll do is we'll lead you through the behavioral model and design immersion. So we'll teach you a lot of these ideas and teach you about some of these heuristics in this. Then we go into this understanding portion of the explore phase where we'll conduct these behavioral audits first. This is a little bit different than, I think, normal research. Normally what we want to do is we want to go right to the consumer and ask them questions. But if context has such an influential, impact on our decisions and our behaviors, we really want to understand context first and bring the consumer outside of it, bring the shopper outside of context. So we go into this context. It could be a website, retail store, in-home, whatever. And we'll do an audit on the environmental factors, these social factors, and then these personal factors. And then what we'll do is we'll also conduct primary research with your shopper, with your consumer, if that's what you want to do, or if it's really needed. Then we go into a consulting phase, and this is the portion where we actually get all this behavioral data back, and we establish behavioral economic principles that are happening at play in each of these environmental, social, and personal areas. And we look to identify what we call leakage points, but areas where system one isn't being drawn, isn't being pushed. So then from there, we design these these concept interventions. Then what we'll do is we'll come back to you and we'll lead these in-context workshops with you. So we'll share out the findings, we'll share out our initial co-design solutions, and then hopefully we will be able to build on these solutions with your brand teams and your sales teams and agency partners. One thing we also like to do in this stage is really fun is to take your teams into an environment itself. So if it's a retail problem you have, let's go to that retail and let's help you understand how we conduct these audits and how you should be looking at the retail environment in the future. If it's a website, we'll do the same thing. We'll go right to the website as a team and we'll teach you how to look at the website through each of these lenses. So then from there, if you do decide to deploy and you want testing services, it may take a couple of weeks until you have prototypes ready to go. But at that point, we'll look at those prototypes, consult on those, we'll refine those interventions if needed, because sometimes there's something always lost in translation from solution that we come up with and to the actual execution, the tactic that you're using. And lastly, we'll go ahead and we'll launch these and test and validate these interventions in market. Overall, it can be very condensed timeline. We've seen that we can do these projects sometimes in 2 weeks, as long as many months, depending on how long you need to go into a deploy phase. And the The last thing, it's really highly interactive, guys. We don't like to just hear about the project remit and then walk away and then come back. We're really, really big on trying to keep you involved because we want to teach these principles to you so you can bring these further into your organization. Do you have another question there for us, Peter?
Thanks. There's another question. Yeah. There's quite a few questions coming in, which is great. Another question which kind of follows on from the last one. Let me just find again. Essentially, the question was, how does our approach methodology work in particular, where the decision process? Sorry. Here it is. Where do you see the application of your insights to industries with elaborated decision processes like durable goods or telecoms?
We've had this question quite a few times. Without understanding your industry very well, here's what I would tell you, that no matter what decision it is, there is some level of System 1 systems in place. Even the most highly priced, what you may perceive as being very logically based decisions, there's still going to be System 1 applications, which means that you still want to look at the personal factors that are happening. What's the physiological state that somebody's in when they make these decisions? What are the social factors? Are they making decisions with other people? Are other people influencing them? Are they getting recommendations? And also, lastly, those environmental factors. Are there menus? Are there things that are happening in a brochure or in retail or whatever that's influencing that? So we find that there's no real difference. The only thing that you really have to understand is that maybe System 2 is being involved in that they're making the decisions emotionally, but the rational side of the decision process, they need to have rational proof points to back up that emotional decision. So we really don't tackle it much differently, except for really focusing that, yes, we do have to think about decision 2 and having those kind of conscious, rational reasons to believe that emotional decision being made was the right one to make. Peter, do you want to add on to that at all? Hello?
Hi, Will. It sounds like Peter's having a bit of audio issues.
Sorry, there's another question. I think I'm back.
Yes, you're back, Peter.
Yeah, great. Okay, so this next question follows on from your last one. How do clients react when you tell them that people and consumers are irrational most of the time and they're often driven by unconscious thoughts? Are the clients surprised at all? Do they think it's like a mystical, esoteric thing?
It depends on the client. I know when I was at PepsiCo, my marketers knew this. And I think most people believe this, but we've been taught for so many years that no, even as an economist, I was taught this in my grad program, that no, we make these conscious decisions. So I think most people kind of intuitively believe it, but they just never had the fact points behind it. Mm-hmm. Now, when I talk to my sales guys at Pepsi, that was a little bit harder sell because they've been using rational things like couponing and price discounting and things like that for a long time. So I think what's really important is activities that show how people make irrational decisions. There's so many of them out there. If you look at Danny Ariely's books, you can look at many of these behavioral economic books, and they have principles and actual experiments and things you can do with people to show them that we do behave emotionally and we are irrational in many cases. BrainJuicer, I think, does a really good job at this because what we do is we have to start many of our sessions convincing our clients, at least, that what we're saying is plausible by doing a lot of these kind of, I wouldn't say they're tricks, but showing that we do make these emotional based decisions. So I don't think many think it's esoteric as much as you think, but we tend to get the most kind of pushback from sales, and sometimes if we get into the financial services industries, it's a little bit harder, but it's a lot easier to sell than you think.
Okay, and there's been a couple of questions about the scent that we used in the scent experiment. So first of all, what was it? And I'm happy to take a couple of these ones on for you, Will, give you a bit of a break. The scent was based on a perfume that the client used. So that was the scent we were able to use, quite straightforward. And did the smell influence the behavior of shop employees? But with the scent experiment, we weren't able to measure or assess if it changed the behaviours of the shop employees. I imagine that they became somewhat acclimatized to it, and probably didn't affect them too much, other than having to turn the machines on and off at the beginning and end of each week. However, I can say that with the chocolate intervention, when we had finished that test, actually the stores that we ran it in were quite keen to continue handing out chocolates to their customers because they really liked doing it. They loved this fact that they were kind of giving things to their customers. So I think in that particular instance, it could actually have improved the relationship that the shop staff had with their employees. Okay, and now a question for you, I think, Will. What about categories which are really commoditized, where people tend to go for the cheapest products and brands don't have a strong image? I thought here it might be interesting, actually, if you could just perhaps say a little bit more about how by discounting, was it the crisps over the soda, you're able to change people's perceptions of value.
Yeah, I think actually even more. I think commoditized categories need behavioral design principles even more, because you can't rely on preferences. You can't rely on these big brands to draw somebody in because it's just kind of habitual. So, for example, I would say that in many of the categories that I was in with sodas, as well as actually chips, like you said, Peter, highly commoditized categories, and there's not a lot of difference because these private label or these store brands are becoming more and more powerful, and their brands and the products are pretty tasty. So in that case, actually, just by creating these new offers that speak to the psychology of somebody and actually driving that choice, so they're not really thinking about their preferences on brand or whatever, are even more influential. So that's a great example of how we were able to do that on the hedonic bundling project, where you're able to take a group of sodas, any soda that you want, as long as it was Pepsi, as well as any chip brand that you want, as long as it was Pepsi, bringing those together. Normally in commoditized category, you say, well, there may be a little bit lower price. I could have gotten it possibly a cheaper brand, but there's creating a more value because you're able to pick up the brand and the one that had the highest hedonic charge by placing a discount on it. So again, very psychological, kind of subconscious influencing, but able to actually take something that's in generally a commoditized category and add extra value by doing nothing more than just kind of modifying some words.
Great. Okay. Still, just I think another 2 or 3 questions is probably all we have time for now. So here's one. Do you believe the kind of scent influences the outcome?
I'll let you also weigh in on this as well.
Yeah,
if you want.
Sure thing.
The kind of scent, of course, I think it does, but I think it has to probably be a little bit more it has to fit into the environment. So there's the classic example that we've heard of in grocery stores where baked breads and things that are priming kind of this physiological hunger state are really, really influential. But I'm not so sure if that priming of bread smells would be very influential in a car dealership. Not sure. But I believe that scents that are priming a physiological state, usually hunger or maybe sex drive, would probably be more influential than a scent that isn't really well known or doesn't fit an environment. That's my initial thoughts on that.
Cool. So I think that you'd probably want to understand kind of exactly what is it that you're selling, what's the appropriate smell for exactly what the product that you're selling is. And for example, I like the smell of petrol, but I might not like the smell of petrol in the context of a clothes shop, for example. So I think you have to kind of use quite a lot of common sense and quite a lot of experimentation as well to really arrive at the most effective scent.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well, because also, not everyone that smells, many times smell is actually one of the senses that bypasses the conscious many times. However, if you do realize that smell, to your point, Peter, that smell out of context could actually hurt things because it doesn't make sense. And then you start wondering, well, why is this scent happening in the first place? Why am I smelling this in the first place? So you do have to be very wary of that.
I tell you what, whenever I go into Abercrombie & Fitch, I have to leave as quickly as I can. I find the smell overpowering, but I understand other people like it.
Yeah.
Okay, another question. Would the change in behaviour using scent and chocolate only work in browse shopping mode, or have we seen evidence of it in autopilot fast shopper situations such as grocery shopping? I mean, I can kind of start off the answer on this, and perhaps you can add to it, Will, that although I haven't seen evidence about kind of scent and chocolates in large stores, certainly the music that plays has a very strong effect on kind of what you call autopilot shopping situations. So faster music made people shop quicker and end up spending less, whereas slower music made people shop slower and they ended up therefore buying more because they were looking at more things. So I think when people are on autopilot fast shopper situations, they are even more heavily reliant on the kind of system one intuitive decision making, which is so susceptible to these sort of interventions like scent and sound and that sort of thing. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Will.
No, I think that was really good thinking on that. There really hasn't been enough research on smell. There's a couple of papers out there that really talk about the influence of smell and some experiments in there, but we just haven't done enough work in smell. Even in my work at PepsiCo, we didn't use smell very often in thinking through some of our experiments that we did. So I don't really have much more to add except for the music experiments that we've been doing here at BrainJuicer.
Okay, thank you very much. Now it's 2:45. There's still a couple of questions left unanswered, but I think we probably kind of reached the end of the questions that we can answer on the webinar today. However, to those of you who have unanswered questions still up, we will get back to you with the responses to those via email. And of course, if any more questions come up, then our email addresses are on the screen. So please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. If you have a challenge for us or something that you're not sure if we could help you with or not, then send it over and we'll do the best we can to tell you if we can help or perhaps point you in the direction of someone else who can. So please, do get in touch, and I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and thanks for all your great questions. Over to you,
Yes, Will. Thank you very much, everybody. Again, thank you very much, and be on the lookout for next month's webinar from John Kieran, who's going to really talk about these ideas, but how they're going to influence the entire research industry. So thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to hearing some more from you. Thank you.